I'm Rob Licuria, Senior Editor at Gold Debbie, here with Silo VFX Supervisor Daniel Rauchwerger. Daniel, any discussion of Silo has to begin with the silo itself, obviously. That gargantuan staircase at the centerpiece of this world. Talk me through the process of interpreting what was described on the page to what we ultimately see on the screen.
So when we started having a look at Silo, when I joined the show, Morton, the director, for the first 3 episodes, said, I want the Silo to be a character in the show. So when we started talking with production designer Gavin, okay, we really kind of tried to figure out how to create a seamless transition. Obviously, this does not fit on a real live stage. We could build 1 floor, and I have to say that set itself was quite massive in its own way. Now, once we started looking into it, it started becoming obvious that we're going to face some major challenges, mathematical and kind of creative, about how to create that space that is by nature very repetitive. We have stairs that are, every 120 degrees. There's a bridge. It's technically 1 big room, and then we realized, oh, it is actually 1 big room. How do you handle it? How do you even approach it to create that scope and world, but knowing that from any floor we do, we see all the other floors. So if we had someone start their journey on floor 10 and we want to have him move to floor 15 and still see people communicating, all of those things had to be resolved ahead of time and create that kind of big feeling that you can always afford to look anywhere you want. From day 1, we were told we can look anywhere. Everything in the silo needs to be open. We don't want to limit how we shoot it. We don't want to go, oh, let's just keep it kind of tight and just have it limited. We wanted to be able to just move cameras around and feel flexible and feel like it's a city. If you go to shoot in any other city in the world, you can shoot anywhere you want and the city will be the background.
Wow. The thing is, with the work that you and your team have done, it reminds me that VFX is not always just about explosions and creatures and the things that we all love about VFX work. It's also about world building, right? So how important is that collaboration with the art department for you to then build out what they have designed, like on set and in camera? That must be really challenging.
It was, that's what also attracted me to this show, because there was an element of invisibility, the ability to do kind of something that feels more bread and butter VFX, something that is more embedded in reality and not showy. I've done the shows where everyone looks at it and go, oh, that's, a spaceship crashing into a building. We know someone had to get involved. We wanted to create something that doesn't show us as, hey, here's VFX, but really it allows us to disappear and blend with the production designers. So when we joined in, the challenges were, first of all, there was a lot of concepts we could build and a lot of concepts that just time, scale, scope couldn't be built on set, and we had to really kind of work together quite hard with the production design to make sure that we keep a visual language. It needs to feel like it's the same architects that plan the silo for every floor, but what does the human factor do to the silo to differentiate one area from the other? How do you live in a city? Do you take the lower floors? Are they more dirty? Do people behave differently there? Do they hang their laundry outside compared to the people that are up top, that are a bit more, they keep everything indoors, kind of in their own homes? Is there more freedom of creative art when they do kind of decoration, graffiti? How do people move, behave? And it was more than just the production design. I think it was a mix of costume and makeup and production design and us to really build this thing that feels very natural and continuous without being able to go, that was there and that was not. And
wow, I love that. And when I watched Silo a while ago now, we absolutely loved it. And so much of that look and feel is industrial and dystopian and dark and brutalist, and I really love the retro futuristic look of it as well. Were there any primary inspirations that guided the overall aesthetic from your perspective when working with the art department and the other departments?
Um, yeah, I mean, we all had, there was it was funny because there was a graphic novel of Silo, and there was certain things that the writer of the book, Yuhawi, was very descriptive and kind of made sure it's quite clear. So when you look at what the fan base of the book was expecting, there was some expectation to the look and design of the silos. So when we took this on board, we looked at what the design is, but what is needed to make it work for film, for camera. And there was a lot of brutalist concrete design, but I think Gavin was quite kind of clever at adding a bit of an Art Deco style, a bit of design, so it doesn't feel so brutalist that it's just concrete and bare metal, and give it some decorative elements, as if the architects that planned it wanted to be something that, yes, concrete has to be used because of the scale and what it's a very good material for that kind of build, but at the same time, give them the element of design, decoration, something that feels almost familiar, which I would say there's a bit of a Great Gatsby kind of feel to some areas, but I think it worked quite nicely, and we had to build our world in the CG kind of part of it to match that, and I think that was quite challenging in its own way to move in the same way by when we added the farms, or how do we create those elements of even the watering system, really stay loyal to that kind of their design, but with design elements that are so, it's from how our hinges are designed versus the sprinklers. They're very kind of, practical, and they need to feel like that's what people would use to set the watering system for this level. But at the same time, there was the element of design from the cow farm level that we built, and how the cows move, and the fences, to the garden, kind of the shed where the keeper stays, and kind of how it feels continuous with the design of the silo, even though it's like a mini element separated from everything of that silo. It was quite interesting.
For sure, absolutely. I know. I just the mind boggles with the potential that you have on this series to build out this really crazy post-apocalyptic world that they're living in, and then wonder, given how grounded and tactile this set and the visuals are, how much pressure is there on the VFX team to be as photoreal as possible? Is that always something that's kind of on your shoulders as a supervisor of the team?
It's something that, I mean, I pride myself in, really peeking into the details. I know some will have kind of always a bit too picky, but I think it's part of the job, and it's part of what makes me so proud of the work we've achieved. Because if someone looks at a shot and completely forget I was there, I've done my job. And the photorealism is the key to that. I don't think there's always an opportunity to kind of go, okay, let's just kind of skip that detail or not put that element into it, but then everyone is losing. At the end of the day, the final product just suddenly reveals itself. You will watch it on the wrong TV or on the wrong screen, and suddenly you go, oh, something just didn't feel quite right. There's a lot of solutions we can take in VFX to simplify things. I think we made efficiencies where we could, in terms of kind of prioritizing the quality, so that we can kind of be very kind of clever about where we put the right details and where we keep it kind of simpler, so that the eye is drawn to the right place. But it's all part of the creation of this kind of photoreal element, from the lensing that were very meticulous about. The lensing itself on this show were quite challenging. We used very old school anamorphic lenses that had quite a lot of artifacting, with a framing scope that was kind of ratio that was quite quite narrow, so it almost treated it like spherical. There was a lot of visual challenges that were presented to us, and we really were meticulous about matching every small detail of the lens so that when we look at it, you just go, oh, maybe they did find a hole in the ground for
Yeah.
10,000 to fit it.
For much of the show, I didn't really think about the VFX. And this is, I mean, that's what you wanted. However, there are moments where the VFX team does come to the fore. And for example, the episodes in the bottom of the silo, in the core with that machinery. And that's when I guess you get a moment to just throw out your whole idea about being invisible and just giving us something really magical and crazy. Was that probably the most difficult challenge to get right when you were doing sequences like that?
The bottom of the silo, I kind of divided. There was the generator room that was quite its own challenge, and there's the void at the bottom of the silo, which was this big, dark, dead machine. And I think the challenge there was that it's one of those things that when you put it on paper, even as a concept art, you don't reveal everything that's going to be revealed when you start putting cameras and placing it. The set was quite small, so we had to constantly try and think of what other details we can add to make it so grand and kind of quite mysterious at the same time. So the lighting was one element that was very particularly planned with Mark Patton, the DOP. And then there was the element of building it from the details of drips on the rock walls to how the drills themselves would have marked the wall. Where can we collapse elements of the rock to hint at different minerals? So there's all sorts of layers we had to build in to make sure in the darkness. Sometimes it's kind of funny. We work so hard and we kind of turn on all the lights, we look at it, say, okay, that kind of copper residue sits on the rock, and then it becomes a bit green here, and kind of you can feel the water flow, and that's where it collapsed, and that's where they stole a bit of metal because it's all kind of been scavenged for a long time. Where do we put this human element of scale, and where do we put the human element of how did they treat this place when they got there? And all of it was kind of played into the details, and then we made it very, very dark. But I feel like that's what makes it so beautiful, because even if you take it 10 stops up, you'll keep seeing more details that when we go dark, they're just there enough for the eye to register that there is a texture, but nothing that you will kind of go, oh, look, they put the details. I don't believe in just because we have it, show the detail. I believe put the details there to give it real tactile feel of a world, a realistic place that had humans interact with it.
Yeah, it gives it depth and, pardon the pun, and yeah, and just more dimension. I totally agree with that. Have you started working on season 2 yet?
We have.
Okay. We obviously can't talk about it. Anyone who knows about the story knows that there's maybe potential for, more world building in or out of the silo, perhaps. Are you excited about the potential for what season 2 is going to bring for the fans?
I am, and I think a lot of people are going to be very excited about what's coming. I cannot say what's coming, but I can tell you that it's very cool, very exciting, very challenging for us. And I think that was the beauty when we were building for season 1, that because the books are already there and we had full access to Graham Yost, the creator of the show, and our leader, and he has full access to you, Howie, we really had an in-depth understanding of where we're going. And I think when people will see it in the future, for all the seasons and whatever may come, they will feel that everything is anchored and everything is built thinking of the future and thinking of making sure that we have the right structure to cater for everything that may come in this thing. And I think that was something that was a huge priority for us when we built it, to make sure we are future-proofing ourselves and building something that's very kind of nice, and it doesn't feel like you have that, oh, it's changed something. It's there, and it's built thinking of all the future seasons, the future parts of the story, and making sure that it also feels like there's a past to it. So there's future and the past for the silo, so that it can cater for all those stories that of what happened, not only what's going to happen.
Yeah, that's what I'm most excited about. I can't wait to see how that's visualized. I know it's going to take some time because it's got to be good. But in the meantime, hopefully all the people watching this interview can at least know that we've got something to look forward to. Daniel, thank you for your time today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.